Now. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Another super nice night here in the Midwest. Balmy, what is it? Probably about 5 degrees or something like that. I don't know what it actually is, but I think on the way home it was 10. So I'm quite sure it's probably about 5 degrees out there now. Enjoy that winter wonderland here in Iowa and there in Wisconsin. And exciting. We've got another episode of Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. So, welcome everybody. We look forward to the evening and look forward to your questions. What's new and exciting at Weir's Machine?
Oh, we're plugging away here. We had a busy Monday. We launched the app today, and the catalog's in production, and Austin's in Florida working at East Bay. So we got a lot of stuff going on.
So how's things going in East Bay?
I haven't got the report. They're practicing tonight, so
Okay.
They don't start racing there until tomorrow night. So
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, that's pretty exciting. We've been just thrashing, man. The same deal. We've had so much stuff going on in the shop, and the back shop boys have been working some overtime and trying to get some more stuff out the door. And it's exciting to be busy this time of the year. Sometimes people's patience are still pretty good. It might not last super long in another month, but we'll go with it and see what we had. Hi, Chris. Glad you're watching tonight. I bet the weather up there where you're at is probably even a little colder than where we're at right here. So, no doubt. Bernie, what cup do you use on the left rear on the sport mods? Spring is charged all the time. What cup do we use on the left rear?
the sport mod would be if you're charged, I think that means loaded all the time, right? So
Yep.
you could probably get away with a short cup as long as you're staying loaded all the time, whether you put an OD grab or an ID grab. Either one would work good. If you're going off the spring and getting loose, you would want to use a taller cup to make sure that stays lined up if you go loose with the spring. But I would probably go OD grab, short cup with the 165 bearings on them.
Awesome.
Which is a 404 SC, I believe, is the part number.
Okay.
Sport mod.
Yeah, I don't deal with those numbers as much anymore, so the part numbers are kind of Greek to me. What Jeffrey wants to know, Chad, could you give us details on the 2-barrel spacer?
So, not sure which 2-barrel spacer you're talking about. We make two different ones for a 2-barrel three different ones for a 2-barrel into a 4-barrel. So, one would go into a quatergen intake, which is non-adjustable. One is non-adjustable and slides all the way, the carburetor all the way forward. And that one's kind of a cast iron intake design. And then we also have the 206 slider version. So that's more of an aluminum intake, open comp one. We make them flared or straight bore, depending on the rules. Most of the 2-barrel stuff is all 1 inch tall. One of the things, a lot of questions about height. The shorter the spacer, the closer you bring the carburetor to the intake, the faster you make the power. So the farther away, the more RPM to make the power. So basically, the theory I always say is short track, short spacer, long track, tall spacer. So not sure if that covered the ones you were talking about, but that's the basics of the 2 barrels.
Okay. All right. Tater just tuned in. Love listening. Mike's watching us. Larry, what is the advantage of running zero index Weir's 4-link bird cages to a non-zero index Weir's 4-link bird cage? Uh,
So the zero index, what that does is basically takes the bar lock bind at full droop. So when you're hanging on the chain and the bars are basically wanting to cam over and be locked like that, your suspension becomes a pogo stick basically. So you have a ton of traction because you have a ton of drive angle. The problem becomes that you blow the tires off too quick because your only suspension then is the tire. So what the zero index does is it allows you to move the rods. You cam the rods or clock the bars, and when the cage is at full droop hanging on the chain, the bars are not cammed over, and you can run a little bit more index or more drive angle and not be bound up. So it basically just takes the bind out of the suspension and puts compliance in the left rear.
Aaron wants to know how much 0 point do you run in an IMCA right front upper A-frame, or what is best? Um, I'm not sure, Aaron, for sure exactly what you're talking about. If you're talking about AntiDive, we run a half a degree. 0 point normally is referred to a shock absorber. So, and that, man, that's a, just kind of depends on the situation. Some 0 points can be up around 300 pounds. Uh, the less 0 point that you have, the better the traction is going to be off the corner. Uh, but it definitely helps the car steer in better.
He just commented AntiDive.
AntiDive. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's probably what he was wanting. Um, Dan, at ride height, I set my load stick to 0 and then went down 3 inches to give me a number. Now I have to replace some suspension parts. Do I set the load stick to 0 at ride height and measure, then check my number at 3 inches before?
Well, hopefully you didn't have it on the car when you zeroed it. You should always zero the stick when you're not on the car. Correct?
Right. Um, well, I mean, the way we do it is you start with ride height and then compress it 3 inches is what we did to get the actual load number, what you're doing. So I'm hoping that's exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah. If your components are all the same and your center to center load stick number, like your scaled number, let's just say 19 inches and you got 500 pounds, just for an easy number. If you crash and destroy the right front and you put all new suspension on, if the shock mounts are in the same spot, you should be able to put it all on, go to your center to center, 19 inches, set the screw jack to 500, go right to the speedway, and it should be perfect. That's the advantage of the load stick. And one of the main reasons we first made the load sticks was to make easy, fast changes at the racetrack, so you could not have to worry about taking measurements when you're on a sandy, the pit areas are not level, and you got to try and go over and find a level spot, take a measurement, rock the car, do all kinds of stuff to make a change, or when you do crash, in the event of a crash, to get it put back together. So that was one of the really cool features of the load stick, is to help you get that repaired between the heat and the B main as fast as you can, or whatever, to get back on the racetrack. That tool will definitely set that suspension for you.
Jim wants to know if we recommend scaling with regular springs in the left rear. Then when you put the preload in it, put that spring on it. I used to do that. I used to actually scale with like a 175 left rear spring and then put the preloaded spring on it and race it the way it was. Now we actually scale it with the preloaded spring. So the 100-pound spring with the preload in it. That's what the car is going to need. It was easier to do it the other way at that point in time, but now I found it doesn't really matter. I'd rather do it with the what you're actually going to race rather than going through the extra effort. Anthony, what would you go to adjustments to give a UMP modified more forward drive off the corner? Well, it's kind of a lengthy question. It's one of those deals where, boy, there's a bazillion things you can do to try to get forward drive off the corner. Um, you know, trailing arm angle, less angle in the right rear, more angle in the left front. And I don't know if you're talking about a 4-link car or if you're talking about and most UMP cars are 4-link cars. So I would probably say, taking a little bit of angle out of some of my right bars and putting some more angle on my left bars would be my first go-to. I'm a firm believer in, putting a little bit of lead in the car, bringing that right rear forward a little bit, because what you're doing is you're taking some of the static steer out of it when you do that, and that helps quite a bit. So that would be a couple things I'd recommend. Chris, a while back, I thought you said someone was making a 12-inch by 5-inch spring. I've been looking and haven't found a source. Thank you. Actually, Eibach makes that spring. They make it for a different application, and we were going to order some, and I don't know if we actually did order some. If we ordered them, I haven't seen them come in yet, but Eibach is the one that actually makes a 12-inch spring.
I see Jeremy commented there. He's got the part number there.
Okay. Jerry Steve is watching. Sandra, what brake pad compound number are you running on the right front of your modifieds? Well, all I can tell you is the actual number of the AFCO pad ends in a 32, because we go with 32s on the right front, 33s on the left front, and 34s in the rear. So whatever AFCO's long part number is, it ends in 32s are what we actually put on the right front. Jeremy says that part number is a bit weird, but it is a true 12-inch by 5-inch spring. Tater, a good friend of mine, bought new to him Rage A-Mod with 18 updates. It's an overslung. People tell us that you have to run a Falcon because the amount of travel people get on the old Saginaw isn't going to work due to the shaft being long enough. Boy, Tater, I really don't know. I mean, most all of our guys run that Burt or Bryn transmission, so that I'm not aware of that Saginaw deal. I know the Sport Mod guys have to run that Saginaw transmission and don't have any problem with it. So, yeah, I don't know.
That'd be a good question for Fastshafts.
That would be a good question for Fastshafts. Yeah, Pat, if you're watching, come on and answer that question for us. Dan, some people set the load stick at 0 when the car is setting on the ground and then jack the car up off the ground, then giving them a load number. Using this method, where would you set the load stick to start after you replace some suspension parts?
So 0, as long as if the car's sitting on the ground and you have the stick in your hand and it's 0'd, and you pull the shock off, put the stick on, jack the car up, that's fine. But if you have that stick connected to the car and then zero it, that's not fine. So you're going to be off on the number. If you bolt it on, zero it with it bolted on, it's going to be under load, and that's not going to be correct. So as long as you zero it before you bolt it to the car and pick the car up and do all your stuff in the air, we like to do it in the air on jack stands because you get a more true number. When we first built this, the first time we built the load stick, I took it to my buddy's car and we pulled the right front down on the ground. And we were going to have this cool tool for checking this out. Well, that's one thing that we did there, and we actually found a bind on his right front shock mount, which made his car better. But at the end of the day, when you're making changes to your race car, if you keep continuing to do it on the ground, if you have a bar different in the back, if you have 10 gallons of fuel versus 18 gallons of fuel, there's too many variables when you're pulling the whole car into motion to get consistent numbers on the front end of the race car. So that's why we like to do it in the air, tire and wheel off, so you get very consistent numbers back to back. But if you're on the ground and put it on, just like you just said, as long as you zero it in midair off the car, then put it on, then jack it up, that's fine. That'll work. That's how you do it, Bob?
Yep.
Or you were doing it, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we end up doing it in the air with the tire off.
It's quicker to do your center to centers that way because you don't have to put it on relaxed and then ratchet it up to the center to center. So, you know, in a hurry up offense like that, it kind of depends on the situation, but.
Yeah. Alan wants to know about a 60 or 62 inch rear end width on IMCA stock cars and why. Well, the theory behind anytime when you trail that left rear, if you can stick that left rear out, it's outside the left front, so the car automatically thinks when you're coming up off the corner, it's supposed to try to hook up more and turn the front end more towards the fence, which is going to give the car a little bit more traction. It's the same thing as using a 2-inch wheel on a 60-inch rear end or using a 62-inch rear end with a standard 4-inch wheel. But you have your option. You can be out further and it loads the left rear more under traction. Some guys don't like it. Some guys don't like it at all. But the stuff that we put together, we use the 62-inch rear end because I feel it gives the car more traction up off the corner. What recommendations do you have to feel the right rear better in a stock car? You know, those cars just have a tendency to not have a lot of side bite in them. And the only thing, you know, the old adage still is moving some weight around and a stiffer right rear spring. Still, there's that common thing about that soft right rear spring. And the problem with that soft right rear spring is anytime you have a soft spring, it just compresses and doesn't load the tire. Where the stiffer spring, when you get weight transfer and it transfers to the right, automatically that spring is going to push that load to that tire more and going to give you more right side load. So I a 250 right rear spring is not out of the question. I know we tried last year going to some soft springs. We even went to a tall 150, and the car had zero side bite with that soft spring in there. And so we went back to the stiffer spring and moving some weight around. That seemed to work the best. Tater thanks us. Appreciate the owner ran a power glide, so just was curious about getting bad information. Yeah, like I said, I would. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to tell you. I don't know that for a fact. So that's where I would call my transmitter, my drive shaft guy, Pat Fagan, and ask him what he knows because he's sold drive shafts to a bazillion of those guys. Running a 28-inch pull bar on a sport mod at about 18 degrees of angle, what effect would raising or lowering both ends? Lowering both ends, and actually running it down closer to the rear end will actually give you a little bit more traction. With it being a solid link, it's going to be minimal. You're not going to really notice a big effect one way or the other. If you could run a bushing in there, then definitely running it closer to the rear end will give you more traction. But like I said, with a solid upper link, I don't know if you really, I don't know if you're going to see a big difference one way or the other. Just wasn't making sense to me. The previous owner, Troy said 250 to 300 pound spring, 13-inch spring. That seems to be the common number that we ran into last year quite a bit. And Troy's won some races at Boone, so he's got a good idea what's going on with that right rear spring. What springs do you recommend starting out putting it on an IMCA modified? Well, it kind of depends on where your roll center's in the front. With the 3-piece spindles, we run a pair of 500s in the front, a 100 left rear, and a 225 right rear. We've run as much as a 250 right rear, but for the majority of the time, I like running the 225 right rear, and that seems to be pretty good. Well, we've got our school coming up this weekend. Chad and I will get to hang out together for 2 days and try to enlighten some of our customers on some of the new things and some of the things we've got going on. Today's the last day to register for the 4-link school, so if you haven't registered, you can still get online tonight before midnight, and then of course they'll close it off. And I know there's a few spots left open for the 4-link school. The 2-links or the stock car school is starting to fill up pretty good. We got some people in today and over the weekend that signed up for it, so it's starting to fill up pretty decent. It's going to be a good class too. So looking forward to this weekend. You get to hang out with Chad and Ben Baker and Riley Hatfield and of course my son Bobby and we'll have a good group of people. I think there's around 48 to 50 people, so it's not going to be too packed. So it'll be a great class. What springs do you reckon? I already did that one. Is the chain on the new GRT right front preload at right height?
Can't chain the right front, can you?
That's what I was confused about. I don't know anything about a chain on the right front. The left front, that we always chain the left front so that it's about 1.25 inches of it's standard 1.25 inches, and then we can go off of then we can go from 1.25 inches to 1 inch or 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches and have pretty good adjustment. 13-inch right rear spring. That 225 would be a 13-inch. The 100 would be a 16-inch spring. Is a 62-inch rear end you sell a BHE, a B&B, or a GRT? It's actually a BHE rear end to fit underneath a B&B car. Well, that's exciting that you got that app launched today.
Yeah, it's been quite a work in progress. The Apple Store was easier than the Android store. We're still having a little bit of problems with that, but if you go to the web page, it's also, you can use the app right off the website too. So the Android users have to use it off the website until their Play Store gets in, our developer software. I don't know. That stuff is, the engineering side of that's above my head. So, but yeah, we got it rolling, and it's a pretty easy download, easy to purchase, and people are using it and giving us feedback already. So it's exciting. There's a lot of information in there, and it's wild the amount of stuff and input that we've gotten on that and what you can put in there, and now we got people asking for different platforms, and so that thing's just, we've created a giant monster there that's going to be, just an evolution of data, basically. So pretty exciting.
Well, it's going to be a nice place to put everything, so you can, if you take, it's just like everything. The more you put into it, the more useful it's going to be, and because I mean, it's endless. Um, it's endless the information you can put in that thing. I mean, I was so amazed at how easy it was to use, and that deal's pretty slick. I mean, that's something that now would be the ideal time to get on that app, because now you still got a couple months to put information in there, and it's pretty slick. What's the gain in moving the spring further outboard and moving the bird cage in on the right rear? Go ahead, Chad.
So that was kind of a trend that came from the late model world, where on the Kyle Larson car had the coil over on the outside of the 4-link rod. So that's, some guys are trying it. The closer you move the coil over spring, whether it's the left rear, right rear, whatever corner it is, that spring will be more influential, more effective on that contact patch. So, is it a miracle? No, I think that there's more to the equation than just putting the spring and shock on the outside of the 4-link rods. That picture was heavily shared, and it actually caused us to redesign some suspension cages and think outside the box. And we do have some modified guys that are using it and very fast on it. And I mean, it's like everything you see, whether it's a pull bar, a spring combination, it's about the whole package. So can you just take your coil over and put it on the outside of your 4-link rods and go kiss the trophy queen? No. It's a whole rebalancing act, and we actually redesigned a right rear cage to go so you could do that. The problem then is, sure, I have this cage, but now your race car isn't built for it. So it's one of them things that, here's something that trickled down from the late models, and the modified cars aren't really built for it. So if you try and bolt the cage together and try and move your spring and shock outboard and your 4-link rods in, and you're constantly trying to change your car. So it's a lot of work to do it. I don't know if you guys have played with it at all. You do need to move your upper shock mount outboard on the chassis, and then most of the time your rail's in the wrong spot, and so it's a lot of work. So if you don't have your car built for it, I wouldn't worry about it, because it's really not, it's not magical.
Yeah, I think we were going to try it, and it was going to be too much remanufacturing to the point where we didn't try it. Just kind of waiting it out to see if it really was a magical thing that we absolutely had to do it. And I haven't been proven yet that it's, like you said, I haven't seen that it's lights out magic.
Yeah.
And the thing with it is anytime when you start moving a spring in a cage, like you said, now all of a sudden it's a whole balancing deal. So you need the whole, it's like baking a cake. You need all the ingredients of what's going on there to make it beneficial.
Right.
Tim, not really a setup thing, but after watching Reimer's video about not being able to get window net down to get out, what style would you recommend others other than that spring loaded deal most of us have? Boy, to be honest with you, I really don't know. I never actually watched that Reimer's video, so I wasn't aware of that fact. It's definitely an issue. I've never thought about that. But
I think it's a steel versus aluminum deal, right? So I don't know what style he had, but I believe, God, I'm not in the window net manufacturing department. We make brackets to go on the chassis to mount that style, but I know that the aluminum plunger inside that steel swedge tube is an issue in my mind, and I don't know if that's what it was. I guess I haven't seen the Reimer's video either, but maybe I need to go home tonight and watch that. But that's the one thing on that spring-loaded device that always concerned me when we had our cars, was that you had an aluminum piece inside of a steel tube. And anytime you add heat, the aluminum is going to swell extremely fast and probably not fit through the steel to open the window net. So I'm not sure if that's what it was. I'm just speaking out loud, but I'll maybe
Yeah,
watch that video and investigate a little bit farther. Maybe there's something
yeah,
we can do better.
yeah, no doubt. That'd be something. I have to watch that before this weekend, and we can talk about that this weekend during the class.
I guess I'd get a seatbelt tab and just do the lever style seat. That's how we had the asphalt cars. You couldn't run a spring loaded one in the asphalt cars. You have to run the latch style, like a seatbelt quick attach deal. So
Yeah.
that might be something to maybe look at redoing some cars if that is what happened there.
Well, and that's what the Cup guys have,
Yeah.
is that latch type deal. So definitely think I would look into that direction.
Well, the next
Um,
comment says find an
yeah,
old
finding
seatbelt.
the old seatbelt buckle out of a '70s car. Any suggestions on how to use the spring smasher and/or load stick on the rear springs on an IMCA modified stock car? IMCA stock car, not modified. IMCA stock car.
So on a stock car, you can use the load stick because your suspension is fixed solid to the axle tube. So we sell these setup sticks, they're called. So the scenario would be your car is scaled, ready to go to the racetrack. Just like on the front where you have a center to center measurement for your load stick, you're going to have center to center measurements in the rear for your shocks. So you'll build a solid stick for your left rear and a solid stick for your right rear at those center to center measurements, whatever your scaled ride height number is. Then with your solid stick on one side, you can put the load stick on the opposite side. And actually, you have to add a 2-inch adapter to our standard one because I think stock car 9-inch spring, 9-inch shocks. So you have to, when you go from the front of the car to the back of the car, you got to put an extension in. But whatever side you put the load stick on, then you bring that up to your scaled center to center, and that's going to give you a load reading at ride height with the spring in there. So that's really, if you do load stick and solid stick on opposite sides, you'll be able to get some pretty consistent numbers there. On a mod, it isn't quite as easy because you have the cages all rotate and there's a lot more variables there. But on the stock car slash sport mod style, it's easier to get a consistent number with the load stick on the rear. And then to use a spring smasher, you would just smash the spring on a slider. You'd have to put it on a slider and you have to take a measurement of the spring in the car, how tall it is, and then put it in the smasher and smash it to that height. So at that point, you don't really need a spring smasher to go stock car racing, but the load stick would give you some data on the rear of the car that you could build a notebook off of.
Tater's got one more question. Once on an underslung four link with spring rates, what do you recommend on all four corners? Well, once again, that particular car, or four link car, with the 3-piece spindles on it, a pair of 500s is a good place to start in the front, 100 in the left rear, and probably a 225 right rears with a 13-inch right rear and a 16-inch left rear spring. That's a pretty good place to start. I'd kind of go with that. 2 inches of droop load on that left rear spring, a good starting spot? Yeah, I would say so. That's pretty common. It depends on how much load you want on it, but with that 100-pound spring, 2 inches is pretty common. Tater, he used a steel rod and an old Chevy seat belt buckle. Matthew, I seen the video issue was that the cage was bent. The cage was bent. Tabs were not located on the same bar. So when the cage was bent, the 2 points shrank enough that it wouldn't clear.
Ouch.
Ouch is right.
Well, I'm glad he's all right. I guess I didn't. Did he get hurt? I don't even know. I guess I should watch.
I had not heard anything about it until tonight when we talked about this video thing. So he evidently didn't get hurt because I would have heard about that.
I just knew he destroyed his car. That's all I knew.
Yeah, I heard that the car was in pretty bad shape. He runs our shock absorbers. What's the new app you're talking about, Chad?
So circletrackapp.com is where you go. It'll show you all the uses of it and features of it. And then it's available on the Apple Store, and the Android Store will be coming. If you're an Android user, you just use the link on the front page of the website.
Jeremy's got a question. What is the reaction by moving the left rear cage upper ear bolt by moving it from 4-inch spot all the way down to the 3-inch mark besides just adding more angle?
So that, yes, it gives you more drive angle, but that'll speed it up. So it speeds that cage up. It'll actually make the car turn in, so it'll make it freer on entry and give it traction off the corner.
Todd wants to know, have you done any testing or seen how much advantage the 2-inch spoiler actually is? Well, back when they first came out with it, we've done some testing, and it definitely makes the car a little bit tighter. It's not it's a bigger advantage than what one would think that a 2-inch spoiler would be. You definitely have to free the car up a little bit more. The thing was, when they went to the 2-inch spoiler, that's also on a crate motor. So we're comparing a non-spoiler car with an open motor with all kinds of horsepower to a crate motor with a 2-inch spoiler. So it's a little bit unfair comparison. If you're going to run a 2-inch spoiler on an open motor car, it definitely will help the car, tightens the car up a little bit getting in. You can definitely tell there's something different back there. It definitely will. It's not huge, not like bolting on a 5 or 6-inch spoiler, but it's definitely a big advantage. Left rear A-mod birdcage. Yeah, we kind of figured that. Okay. He's all safe. He's all safe. Car is done. Yeah, I heard that the car was in pretty dead shape. We had a new car there that we had just sold about 2 hours before he called, wanting to know if we had anything new sitting there, and we don't. We won't have any more new cars until the middle of February. So we're letting one of the Weir's crew go down in the sunny side of Florida, huh?
Spoiled.
Damn.
I can't go because I got to come to your school.
Oh, that's right. Damn.
Yeah. So I got that school, and then we got the 2 outdoor shows for the scorekeepers. So.
Oh, gotcha.
I got three crazy weeks here, and actually, I've canceled the Pennsylvania tour. I was supposed to go to Pennsylvania last week, and Winter Storm Cassandra came through and ruined that for me. So we didn't get to go out to Pennsylvania and do what we were going to do there. So that kind of sucked. I was really looking forward to getting out to Bernheisel's and Lethal Chassis' new spot, and I guess we'll just have to wait for another day.
Yeah. Well, with the way their weather is, maybe you might try a trip in July.
Yeah, I'm over traveling in the winter. That's why I apologize to them guys. And when I booked the trip, I said, if there's a storm, I ain't going to do it. So, yeah, it was unfortunate. But
yeah,
on to the next one. And then poor Austin had to go to Florida, and he drove in snow for I don't even know how long to go to Florida. So.
Oh, gee. That's not good. Not good. Michael, how about RTJ? He is
on fire. Did he win tonight again already? I don't know. Is it over?
Yeah.
He's on a roll. He won last night.
Yeah, I heard he's been running pretty good.
Doesn't matter what it is. Midget, sprint car, go-kart. The dude could win in anything, I think.
Yeah, he's a pretty talented fella. There's no doubt about that. One heck of a wheelman. Okay, on an IMCA Northern Sport Mod, Mason Day 95 running an extreme tie-down versus easy upright front. Will it take drive out of the left rear, being the right front is not able to transfer weight to the left rear? Well, in reality, yes, it's going to. Anytime that you hold that right front from transferring weight back to the left rear, it's going to potentially take drive. Now, if the car gets through the middle of the corner faster, you can sacrifice a little bit of drive so that you can just actually get more speed and more momentum. But in reality, the least amount of tie down you can have, the better it's going to be for traction. It's just that sometimes these cars are so tight anymore that we've got to put more tie down in the right front to make sure that they steer, and vice versa. It ends up costing a little bit of forward traction, but sometimes, like I said, we pick up corner speed. I mean, the race is actually won in phase 2 of the corners. So if we can improve our speed in phase 2, we can sacrifice a little bit in phase 3 because we're going so much faster. Tim says they're just starting, not yet coming out for the A, just getting ready for the A. Tater, how do you get a hold of Pat at Fastshafts? How do you wouldn't happen to have his number, would you?
Yeah, I got his cell phone number. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's the only thing I got is his cell phone number too.
I would just Google Fastshafts and call the Fastshafts. Now, I don't know if he's on the way to Florida or.
Yeah, he probably went to Florida.
I think he's going to Volusia, so he might still be in Iowa packing the trailer. I'm not 100% sure, but he might be on the road. So
yeah, I would Google that and give them a call first thing in the morning because Pat's probably getting ready to be on the road if he's not already. Chad, have you made kind of a tech tip book for your zero index changes? Charges, I'm assuming he means changes. Old guys like me struggle with new designs versus the old stuff I built with only 2 holes.
I don't know if you're busy this weekend, but you can learn a heck of a lot about it in Iowa at Bob Harris Enterprises.
Yeah,
or buy it online.
Yeah, that's the thing. If the weather's bad, you can buy it online. And the advantage of buying the school online is you get that thing for a full year, so you can go online anytime you want to and review anything. You can watch it as many times as you want to. A lot of good information. Like I said, with the panelists that we've got there, there's going to be a tremendous amount of information. And we spend a lot of time on that rear suspension. That's basically the most time-consuming subject of the whole class. Because in fact, next year I'm actually kind of contemplating cutting that class to 1 day and cutting out some of the stuff that we do and going. Oh, Gary's got, yeah, there you go. Fastshafts number there, 800-622-6617.
So I have a whole new marketing team here at WM World headquarters, and we've been redoing some manuals for the Ultraforce machines. So maybe we need to do a zero index manual. Maybe we could do a little handbook on a couple things there to make life easier and explain it better, because we do get a lot of people that put it on the car wrong or don't set it up right, or because if you really don't do it the way it's supposed to be done, it doesn't work right. So
Doesn't work right.
a lot of guys they'll, I gotta, just like we just talked about putting the coilover on the outside of the 4-link rods, you gotta put zero index on. Well, if your car doesn't have the right holes on the chassis side, just because I have a suspension cage built for zero index, doesn't mean you can put it on and go kiss the trophy queen. You need to do it the way it's supposed to be done, which is taking the bar and moving it back and the bottom rod moving it forward, but you got to move it on the frame and the cage. So if you just make one rod longer or one rod shorter or one shorter, one longer, it's not working the same. So that's one thing that, maybe we just need to simply put a sheet of paper in there on how to properly do it and call it a day. So if you do have any more questions, feel free to give us a call tomorrow, and we'll gladly walk you through more of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. I mean, that's something that, that would be very useful. And now that you have staff that's more up to speed on that type of thing, I think that'd be a good idea. Boy, I'll have to start thinking of all kinds of things for your new staff to do.
I made a note of it. We're good to go. I'm putting it on Colby's desk.
All right. Jeremy said he tried it last year and was told cage adjustments were not really covered. I definitely looked into it, but it's definitely it's a whole package, and the car's got to be made for it or remade for it to work. So no doubt. Joey says, "Hi guys, hard at work at the shop, finishing up the cars for Florida, putting all the awesome Weir's products on it. That's awesome.
Cool.
Way to go, Joey. Tell my old buddy, Mr. Schrader, hi. Wish him all the best luck and have a great time down there in Florida." On a sport mod, how flat would you run the right rear bar without making corner entry too tight to help drive off? I still like to have it be one hole above level. In other words, about 2.5 to 3 degrees. If you go completely flat, the car is going to be very, very tight on corner entry. Because once that rolls, it can't go back. It's got to go forward all the time. So you're steering forward, and that's going to make the car very, very snug. But we've, and even that 3 degrees deal can be pretty snug depending on the conditions, of course, and what stagger you run and things like that. I'm new to the BHE team. I bought Josh Carroll's 2016 GRT. All right. Well, congratulations, Joe. We appreciate having you on the BHE team, and feel free to give us a call. You need any setup information, give Bobby a call at the shop, or you need any parts, give Austin a call at the shop. We got plenty of guys there that can help you out in any way that you need. So if you call Austin tomorrow and give him your email address, he can send you the setup sheet for that car. I think they have the 16-17 setup sheet still, but either way, I'm pretty sure we can send you. And I know we've got the newer setup sheets, which are still pretty similar, so we can get you set up there, Joe. That's not a problem. So where do you go for your scores at?
So the one show is right here in La Crosse Sports and Outdoor Show, and then the week after that we go to Duluth to the Duluth Sports and RV show. So yeah, it's fun. It's a different crowd, different atmosphere. I'm used to the race parts world, and then we made these scorekeepers for cornhole because my kids were fighting. So, but we have fun with it. The marketing team's working on a new commercial there that's going to be really hilarious. So, be watching for that.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. Kyle, what are you recommending for Stagger on the IMCA Sport Mod? How many different theories out there? There's just curious on your thoughts. Well, I'll tell you, my theory is driver preference. Some drivers like driving with a fair amount of stagger. And when I say a fair amount of stagger, I'm talking about 2.5 inches, 2 to 2.5 inches. Some guys don't like it, but most everybody's running at least an inch in the rear, inch in the front, inch in the rear. Uh, I still like the inch in the front and the 2 inches in the rear. I think the car rolls the middle of the corner a little bit better. But once again, it just kind of depends. When you run a little bit more stagger, you have to run a little bit more lead. And so once again, it's a driver preference totally, in my opinion. We've got guys all across the board now. With an A mod, some of those guys are the ones that are running a little less stagger. Sport mod guys still end up having to run a little bit more stagger. It seems to be very common. Jaden's got a question: a 450-pound rat front spring. Any information on that? Well, if once again, if that's what your car needs, I definitely run it. We've got some guys out there. We don't have anybody in one of our cars running them, but we do have some customers that are out there that are running the softer right front spring. It's very common that softer right front spring can get the nose down in the right front. And one thing about that deal is you just got to be a little careful on the racetrack itself. And you're starting to get fairly soft. You definitely, with that 450-pound spring, you definitely need to run a lot stiffer shock absorber, because the 450-pound spring is going to get quite a bit of movement, so you're going to have to time that and slow that movement down. That's the biggest thing that I see with the soft springs is we're having to go stiffer on compression on the shocks. Adam, thanks for all the great tooling school a few weeks ago. Yeah, that tooling school was good, man. I tell you what, we had a great time, and it was a great group of people, and we even had Billy talking, and I mean, it was a great school. It was one of my more fun schools that I've had in the last 3 years. It was a wonderful group of people, and questions were good, and it was really good, very open. Joe wants to know, what do you recommend for wheel offsets? We will be running a 602 modified. What I actually do is I run 3-inch wheels all the way around the car, and then I run a 1-inch spacer on both fronts, left front and right front, with a 1-inch spacer, so it would simulate a 2-inch offset wheel. In my left rear, I run a 1-inch spacer and simulated a 2-inch wheel. Then I can go to a 1-inch or a 1/2-inch spacer if I need the car to turn more. Or I can put that 1/2-inch spacer on the right rear if the racetrack's heavy with a big cushion or something. So I can do quite a bit with wheel spacers. And I believe in working with wheel spacers quite a bit. So that's my opinion on the wheel spacer thing. Yeah, Larry said the same thing I said to Jaden: get your shock builder. Talk to your shock builder on running that 450 on the right front, because it's going to require a little different shock combination. Well, we've had some good questions tonight. Definitely. We have a little bit more time here. Once again, like I said, don't forget about the 4-link school this weekend. There's still some spots available there. Today's the last day to pre-register. If you sign up online and you take the school online, as long as you register soon, they'll send you out the book, so you get the actual book that you come to the class. So it's basically the same thing as coming to the class. Like I said, the advantage to the online school is you can kind of watch it at your pace. and you can rewatch it numerous times. So we had quite a few online subscribers on the 2-link school. I don't know how many online subscribers we have for the 4-link school, but the 2-link school was pretty good. Chad, do you have a non-swivel, non-drop cup for right rear on a sport mod?
Yeah, so I think 404 TC would be the OD grab, and 304 I'd probably run a medium cup, so an MC. I think them are the numbers. So 304 MC non-OD and a 404 TC OD grab. So depending on what you want to do, if you do run an OD grab, you can't run a bearing on the right rear because most of the sport mods I think come loose a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're hiking going down the straightaway and the spring comes loose, you don't want to have that bearing in there free floating. When you slam back down on the spring, that's when you snap the washers on the Torrington bearing, and then that's all bad. So.
Yep. We had put those in Taylor's new car, and she brought it to my attention that, well, we did this last year, and I broke those things. I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. Great idea. Didn't work out so well though.
Only intention. Yep.
Yes. We always stayed within a 500 to 600 pound, just super weary of going lower than 450 without slamming the frame into the dirt. Well, and once again, it's the setup, I mean, there's all kinds of things that cause that car to try to drive that 450 in the ground. And once again, it definitely needs to be smooth. And if the racetrack is super, super fast, that 450 is probably going to be too soft. And you're going to probably have that problem. I mean, that's not out of the ordinary. So with a stock car with wheel spacers, why would you want a 62-inch rear end? Thanks. Well, because you can always go a little bit more and stick that left rear out even further and try to get more drive off. It just kind of depends on, you wouldn't need a 62-inch rear end. You could do it all with, but you can't run wheel spacers and a 2-inch wheel. Where with a 62-inch rear end, you could run a 2-inch wheel plus a 62-inch rear end and have that left rear out there further yet. But in the IMCA world, you can't run a wheel spacer with a 2-inch wheel. Evan, it's probably been asked already, but what spring setup for a stock car for a dry slick racetrack? And I'm not completely as familiar about what the front springs would be, and maybe Troy's still listening and he can kind of chime in there on that. I'm thinking that the front springs are around 1,000 left front, 800 right front. Your rears, are in that 100 to 150 range on your left rear. And like Troy said earlier, the 250 to 300 on your right rear. What was Steve's question?
I'm not sure. I tried to go back up and tried to find that, but I'm not sure.
Kyle, idea on best way to, oh yeah. There we go. There's some spring recommendations for the front end. Thanks, Troy. Idea on the best way to keep a sport mod rotating on the bottom and not using the whole track as a corner. Well, definitely Stagger is going to help you there. A little bit more steer, a little more angle on the right rear bar is definitely going to help the car turn on its own. You've got to be a little bit careful. If you get too much steer, it's going to make the car a little free coming off, so you got to be a little bit careful. All right, Steve says spring cup on the right rear can't use a bearing.
The 304 and 404 are non-bearing cups. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks guys for chiming in. We had a good crowd again tonight. Great questions, and we'll see you again here in 2 weeks. Tanner Weeks, get out of here, joke, brother. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks again for all your questions, and look forward to seeing you here again in 2 weeks. We'll be back here February 13th, day before Valentine's Day.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you,
have
guys.
a good night, everybody.